This is the state of Main Street business here at Alignable. We're tackling the growing problems many merchants are facing, and we're also here to discuss real-time solutions to these issues. So I'm Chuck Casto. I'm head of research, communications, and news here at Alignable, and I have the pleasure of co-hosting this awesome roundtable discussion with Mitchell Groves, who's not only from a legendary entrepreneurial family, he's an entrepreneur himself. Mitchell, it's so great to have you here after we've been planning this for a long time. Just give our audience a little bit more about your background.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chuck. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Mitchell Groves, and I help lead the partnerships team here at Alignable with the focus of bringing the brands or tools that our members love and trust onto the platform. I've also been a part of Alignable since day one, watching my father, Eric, who co-founded the company with Venkat, on my back porch in Acton, Massachusetts. Growing up and seeing my father's passion around helping small businesses and entrepreneurs, I knew that I wanted to do the same. I have experience working in banking, startups, and then also landscaping in my younger years. And I got to see a lot of the hard work that it takes to grow businesses of that sort as well. I understand how difficult it can be to start and grow your own business, seeing it firsthand and also starting my own. While at Northeastern University, where I graduated from, I founded Huntington Avenue Ventures, a small venture capital fund, which invests in early stage startups led by Northeastern alumni. I'm honored to be a part of this webinar today to hear from Main Street merchants and discuss the opportunities and challenges they're facing.
Okay, Mitchell, that's great. And I actually learned a little bit about you in this description that I didn't know about before. So hopefully everyone, gets a really good view of, everyone here is an entrepreneur working for entrepreneurs. That's really what this place is all about. And especially the group here today. So we're so thrilled you're joining us. And Randy from Alignable is behind the scenes. Randy created some great slides for us, and I'm just going to ask that Randy and Mitchell bring those up. Okay, there they are. Terrific. So again, this is the state of Main Street. And as I say here in the subhead, Main Street retailers need your help now. And I'll tell you why. Moving ahead. Okay, so why are we here today? Other than other than Martin and Dave and I talking about this a couple months ago. Well, so our Alignable's Research Center, which I had along with Eric, we just polled over 4,000 members. In fact, I just looked at it this morning, 4,200 members told us this. Unfortunately, only 23% of the small retailers say they are earning as much monthly as they did before COVID. And as I say here, that's really not good. 23% have fully recovered. That's it. And unfortunately, that's down from 37% just a couple months ago. So we're not going in the right direction this year, at least statistically, and we really want to be able to turn that around. And if you're comparing it to other small businesses, they're down 11 percentage points. Retailers are down 11 percentage points from the average, which is 34%. And frankly, that's not a great rate either. So that's this is important to keep in mind. Why don't we go to the next slide? Okay, what are the top concerns? And this is probably not news to anybody, but I just wanted to highlight it really quickly. Inflation, ramping up revenues, attracting customers, paying the rent. In our most recent rent report, 39% of small businesses couldn't pay their rent in full and on time. For retailers, it was even worse. It was a few percentage points higher. was 41%. That's not good. And online shopping, the effects of online shopping on Main Street brick and mortar retailers. So those are the top concerns. And looking more here, we asked also about spending. Spending is down among 59% of the consumers going to the retailers who were polled. And that is, that's a big number too. This other one's really scary. Cash flow, as I have here, is downright scary. 45% of retailers have less than 1 month worth of resources and reserves. And that is much higher than the 32% across all small businesses. So this really explains why we're here and why we're urging everybody, whether you're a merchant, whether you're here concerned about Main Street, you really need to ramp things up on Main Street, because these are pretty scary figures. And we have been tracking these figures every month since COVID started. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so 41% of Main Street merchants are hurting. 2% are planning to shut down. Now, 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is when you think of millions of merchants across the country and across Canada. Barely hanging on, 24%. That's, for me, that's probably the scariest number here. And then my situation is just not good. That's 15%. So that adds up to the 41%, where we're quite worried about that group. Now, 36% are holding steady. 16% are growing and doing well. So that's promising. And 7% say business has never been better. So some people are doing quite well. But again, if you see, that's that 23% who've recovered and are making as much, if not more, than they did before COVID. And, that's less than 1/4. That's where it gets disturbing. And that's why we really wanted to have this webinar, and probably more of them coming up. So let's go to the next slide after that. Okay, the expert panelists here. We have a lot of great people here. We have Martin Brossman, who he is the head of the Brick and Mortar Business Owners Group, along with Dave Baldwin. They have teamed up on this group. This group has a lot of members already, but we'd like to see that membership quadruple. Anyway, they're doing a great job with this group. You'll hear me several times during this presentation urging you to join that group if you haven't already. Then we have Kim Joy from Art Happens on Tarboro. We have Sharon Rowland, and I am not going to pronounce this with your beautiful accent, Sharon, but with Bowditch Antiques and Collectibles. And then we have Brian Vinciguerra. I hope I got that right, Brian, with Cracked It Escape Games. And we'll be talking about that too. And Jack, we've got Jack Dugan here. Jack not only has Cloud9 Creamery and ice cream store, and I'm a big fan of ice cream stores and shops, but he's also the small business director for the Beaufort County Community College. So he has, if you look at some of his great tapes, he has all sorts of great advice for small business, for all small businesses, but retailers in particular. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, and we're ready to kick off this roundtable now. Martin, I want to know your reaction to these statistics that I shared about the state of Main Street businesses, and also what you think retailers can do to turn the ship around this summer.
to me, the biggest thing is when times are difficult, it's more important than ever that small businesses work together. And I get to train in a lot of small towns. And what I have to say is get over whatever you have as a story of your neighbor and find a way to find middle ground and work together. The other thing is, the businesses all need to ask, what is the profound experience that makes it worthy of someone's time to leave their house, show at our event, and not buy online? That's it, an experiential piece of it. And the third item that's critical is really understanding, are you a clerk in your business today, or are you enrolling every person who comes in to be a champion or ambassador of your business? So this really demands more creativity, demands more working together. I do not think we'll survive if we isolate ourselves or not care about our neighbors. I think we can really prosper if we all work together, because you cannot replace in the experience of going into Jack's ice cream shop or the gift shop or the others or the escape room. You can't get that 3D experience yet. One day we might. So if we don't move fast and working together with a sense of urgency, we can let technology ultimately even take that away from us. So this is the time for that, moving with a sense of urgency and working together. And then really ask, can I get something local? But we must do more than just say shop local. We must do more than just say help your neighbor. We must create a competitive advantage. And we can, and many do, by the experience when they walk through the door.
Great answer. So next question we have for Dave, actually, how do you think local merchants can ramp up their revenue so they can recover more quickly than they have? Are there any inflation busting suggestions that you have for them?
Well, it's interesting when you look at the statistics, to kind of harken back to what Martin was talking about a second ago, and how that relates to inflation. One of the things that I've noticed is that, while COVID-19 was definitely a disruptor that knocked things for a loop in a lot of businesses, and while the levels of inflation have certainly been a factor, supply chain shortages, labor shortages, but I got to tell you, from a lot of the small business owners that I interacted for the 10-year period prior to COVID-19, just barely hanging on can actually just be the norm that people get used to. And the way I look at a factor like an external disruptor, like inflation, like COVID-19 or anything else, is you've got to think about the financial strategy and ask yourself, okay, what is it going to take for this business model to really thrive? And so we've got to look at our revenue streams. We've got to look at where we're getting our customers from. We've got to look at our cost models. We've got to look at how is our labor structured. And that's simply, that's the kind of work that a lot of small businesses simply don't make a priority of doing anywhere near as often enough as they need to do. And the tendency when just hanging on becomes the norm is there's this kind of resignation and cynicism that sets in. And they just kind of accept that, okay, we're always going to have razor thin margins. We're just going to be getting by for another month. That doesn't have to be the case, but it does oftentimes involve having a really difficult conversation, taking a hard look at your numbers, getting experts involved if that's what you've got to do, but figuring out, okay, if we really want to go from surviving as a business to thriving as a business, what do those numbers need to look like? What does that revenue need to look like? Where would we have to cut costs potentially? And would we need to actually restructure the fundamental economics of this business model into something that can actually thrive? Because the reality for a lot of small businesses is you may not be able to with the current model. And it might be in the best interest to make some of those wholesale re-engineering of the business model. So I realize that's not a complete answer to the question of inflation, but frankly, it just depends on what type of business you're talking about. But that's my take.
Excellent. Wow. That's Dave. And I just want to ask, are these some of the topics that you and Martin tackle in your group and you guys will tackle in the mastermind as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Working with them as a round table. And it's critical because most places, small businesses go, there's always someone else. There's like a network marketer or someone else. This is only brick and mortar storefront. Yep.
Okay. Brian, I'd like to bring you into this. And I love that Martin already talked about the need to create a unique experience. And I saw in one of your videos that you had done with Martin that that was really something that you highlighted. So can you talk to us a little bit about the escape room businesses, which I am fascinated by? And of course, those are all about the experience, right? Talk to us about that. They are all the rage in small towns now. And tell us how yours is doing. And then really talk to us about the importance of creating that experience that people want that you can only get in the brick and mortar shop.
Sure. So for those that don't know what an escape room is, we take groups of people and place them in a themed room for up to 60 minutes, and they solve puzzles and challenges to accomplish a mission. That's kind of like the overarching, like what do we do on a day-to-day basis? Building an experience, when somebody walks into our location, we want them to be immersed completely 360 degrees for the next amount of time that they're with us. We do realize that our guests have an opportunity to spend their money virtually anywhere, and they take a time to choose to spend their money with us, and we're very grateful for that. Looking back at your statistics, I count myself firmly in that 36% right now. For the last 7 years, I've had year-over-year growth anywhere between 10 and 12%. This year, it's kind of leveled off. I'm not worse off than last year, but I'm not better off than last year. I am literally treading water. I also count myself among that 45% that don't have a full month's worth of operating capital. That was all exhausted over the last year or so. One, by making a poor business decision, and two, just by I raised salary for my employees. At the same time, I raised prices, so it was a net zero for me. I increased my revenue, but at the same time, I increased my expenses. And with employees accounting for greater than 40% of my operating expenses, what Dave mentioned earlier is finding ways to control that employee expense is crucial to me, to my success in my operation. How is the escape room industry doing as a whole? We're doing fabulous. Specifically in North Carolina, since this is a North Carolina group here, we've shown gains across the industry. In pre-COVID, there were 81 companies, escape room companies, individually across the state of North Carolina. Post-COVID, that dipped down to about 62, 63. Over the last 10, 12 months, we've come back to that 81, and we've added 4 more companies over the last 3 months. So, and with larger national players starting to enter the North Carolina market, it's really starting to grow. So entertainment is always going to be, I'd like to say that we're recession-proof. We're not really, but people are going to spend their money to have fun. They want to get away from the depression of their everyday existence, and having an outlet to go and spend a little bit of money, spend some time with family is crucial to their mental health and well-being. So we're really the benefactors of that necessity. And also being in a military town, I consider myself sort of recession-proof, because regardless of what's going on with the debt ceiling discussion that's going on this week, the military and government employees are going to get paid no matter what. So I'm very, very lucky to be in a community that has that kind of customer base.
That's terrific. Well, I'm sorry that things are flat so far. Hopefully they'll be turning around. But thank you for your candor with all of this. And I really learned a lot about the escape room businesses, researching this and researching your company. And again, it just brings up this importance for the experience. And to what you're saying, the escape from reality that people need, because that's it. And as a group, I think that's just fantastic. So thank you for all of that. And Jack, I want to talk to you a little bit more about not just the ice cream shop, but again, how you make a unique experience in an ice cream shop.
Yeah, so it's really a necessity in the ice cream business because everybody's got good ice cream, including the grocery store, right? So they can get good ice cream just about everywhere they go. You can get Ben and Jerry's at a convenience store or at a Speedway, right in the freezer. So really in the ice cream business, it's really all about the experience when they walk through the door, right? It starts with having a unique vibe in your shop, right? Really a special vibe that's comfortable and warm and inviting. And so it kind of starts with that. And then it's really anchored in how you treat your customers. In my ice cream shop, our policy is that we learn everybody's name, every customer's name.
Wonderful.
Right. So our focus is as soon as someone walks through the door, we know their name. We don't know their name, then we work towards getting to know their name. And we also try to engage our customers as much as we can outside of the ice cream shop. We get down to the local marinas where we get a lot of our business. And we don't just market at the marinas, we hang out at the marinas when the boats are coming in and introduce ourselves to people, give them rewards cards, invite them to the shop, see if they have any questions about the town, where the grocery store is, where the hardware store is. So, this day and age as a small business owner, you've got to get outside of your building and you have to engage the community and represent yourself, in any way that you can.
That sounds like great advice across the board. And when we had a new ice cream shop open up near me, I took my daughter every single day for a year. And we were the second family on their opening day. So they know us by name. Let's put it that way. 8 years later. So that's wonderful. Great advice. Great advice.
Because, costs have rise so much from ice cream to cups to spoons. We've had to raise our prices so much, and we know we're nearing a point with our customers where, our prices are much higher, and we really have to find ways to add value. And, there's only so many efficiencies you could find, right?
Right.
At some point, you just have to rely on your experience to make up for rising prices. A good customer service, quickly getting their ice cream just isn't enough. You need to make them feel great while they're in there, like they're the most important person in town. That's what our goal is with everybody. And I have an escape room too. And I certainly understand Brian's where he's at. I've been in the escape room business for a long time. And I've actually found that I'm closing my escape room in Bellhaven, and I'm refocusing my resources on live entertainment. So I write murder mystery plays, and we're actually shifting our focus from escape rooms to live murder mystery theater in the local theater, and we're selling out a lot of shows. So that kind of leads me to my next point is don't be afraid to be flexible. Don't be married. I'm not saying give up, but don't be afraid to be flexible. And if you see an opportunity, don't be afraid to refocus your resources on new opportunities where you see evidence that there's prosperity there.
Great point.
That's great.
Great.
Jumping to the next question for Sharon. I understand that you helped create a local welcome center and the Bakersville Merchants Association. How has teaming up with other small business owners on your main street helped to improve business for your entire community?
Well, let me just say that our town is Bakersville, but we chose to highlight the whole northern end of Mitchell County. And so we have 50 member businesses in the business association. Almost all of those are members or working in the Welcome Center. But we chose to do this as a part of our contribution to the community, and several things have resulted in that. One, in the Welcome Center, we have featured opportunities for businesses to showcase their business of the week. And that then attracts people to go to those businesses, whether they're in Beulah or right here in Bakersville. The other thing that we do is to try to highlight all of the businesses that we can during the year. So if there's a business of the week, then we rotate that out and help other people be able to make that happen. We also have lots of other things in the Welcome Center, but let me just share with you a couple of things that have resulted as part of these groups coming together. And Martin's right. I think all of you have said that you have to work with other people. And as a result of one of our committees in the Bakersville Area Merchants Association, we have demonstrated our theme, growing business through partnerships. The way that we've done that is we've had competitive grants for building facade through economic development in the county. And two recent events that have demonstrated partnerships and have gained lots of support are, one, a progressive dinner where 7 of our businesses in town got together and we did a progressive dinner all the way from hors d'oeuvres to chocolates at the end and all the courses in between. We had limited spaces, so we just had 2 seatings. And for a little town of Bakersville, we netted $2,000, which is huge for us.
Yep.
And then as a result of that, next Friday evening, all the businesses in town have been invited to grand openings of the businesses. We have a lot of galleries in town, and each participating business will have a list of the participating businesses for this a grand walk, if you will. So those are a couple of examples. But one other thing that I would say about our own business, you have to get to know your future customers. And so you greet them when they come in. Somebody else said that. But in conversation, try to find something that you have in common with that individual. And then when you get to the purchase, if you have an out-of-town guest like we do, make sure that you are offering shipping for them. It works almost every time.
Oh, that's a great insider tip. That's great.
Outstanding.
And then the next question, Kim, your stained glass business looks fascinating. How has it been going so far in 2023? And do you have any tips for other retailers who create and sell artwork in their towns?
I'm doing much better than I did during COVID and coming out of it. Still trying to recover completely though. But I have pivoted. I used to just think I was a stained glass artist. I've pivoted from that to teaching and doing repair work. And that has helped with income like you would not believe, just doing that pivot. Eventually, I'll hopefully go back, but right now I'm fine doing what I'm doing. And I also have tried to work out partnerships. So like if I have a all day long class, I will reach out to a local cafe to see if we can have lunch delivered, and it would be a package deal that way. Or if it's a 2-day workshop, then doing a package with a Airbnb. And there's other art studios in town that I've also reached out to about doing back-to-back classes, starting at their place or my place and flip-flopping. So by helping myself, helping others help themselves too by offering these partnerships.
That's wonderful. Are you selling any of your creations in, say, like a local florist, for instance, or other shops, or are you offering to sell, flowers or other things from somebody else too? Is there any of that happening?
I'm in other galleries, not in my community, but outside. And I did have a small gallery in my studio when I first opened here in Wilson. And the foot traffic just didn't warrant the extra artwork. It was, I guess, maybe because we were a baby business back then in 2018. The foot traffic just didn't bring people in to buy their artwork. And it was more of a storage place, I guess, for their work. So we broke that partnership. Right now, traffic is still slow. It's mainly people coming to want to learn how to do something, not really to buy.
You've transformed your space into a training facility at many times, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
More of a teaching studio now than a gallery per se.
Great. Well, that word pivot that you used was, so integral to the success of small businesses during the worst days of COVID, of course. But we all know small business owners are pivoting all the time. It just became in fashion, or it just got a little more attention during COVID. But yeah, it's great to see what all you're doing there, and the teaching the classes. That's neat too, because not a lot of people know that much about stained glass, as you probably have discovered. But it's exciting, and it really does a lot for a home too. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Maybe there's a tie-in with realtors at some point who want to jazz up a room or something like that. Let me just move on to the next question. Brian, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, tips for retailers on fighting inflation. And, of course, it's been higher than usual. I've been tracking it. It feels like it's been higher than usual for a year and a half now. And, beyond raising prices, you talked about raising prices and raising salaries, which, of course, keeping enough people employed at your place of business is a big deal, too. But, what else can retailers do to help fight this inflation that just doesn't seem to be going away?
Well, that's a real primary concern for all of us. I mean, kitchen table politics, number one issue is the state of our finances. And we all there's only so many dollars in our bank accounts that we can do things with. And as the cost of bread goes up and milk and formula for babies, families are having to make real decisions on what they can spend, what small amount of discretionary income they have available to entertain themselves or purchase new and glamorous items for their living spaces. So ways that we've used to I don't want to say inflation busting, but we offer multiple opportunities for discounts so that people can come and visit us. There's 2 days a week that we give a sizable percentage discount, and then we give a percentage of our proceeds to charities, because I consider myself a premium experience. We charge a premium price for a group of 4 individuals to come visit us. So, which may lead to that kind of flatlining effect that I've seen with my income over the last, several months. But there are opportunities for others to come visit us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where we give a 15% discount and we give 10% of our proceeds to charity. We've done that since our second month open. So having a smart shopper kind of attraction, as well as partnering with other, like-minded attractions or like-minded business. I heard the same thing that Sharon said with her, her businesses downtown, where they formed an association where there's mutual benefit for everybody to cross promote and then share sales and marketing and things like that. So for the general consumer out there, they are going to find what is best going to suit their available funds. And hopefully we fall in that. And if not, what are we doing as small businesses to, weather this storm that's coming? I mean, we may want to stick our head in the sands like a bunch of ostriches and not look at what's coming down the road. But inflation is a reality. And because of that, last year I raised my, across the board, did an employee raise of 11%, so everybody got an across the board raise. But at the same time, again, I mentioned earlier, I raised my prices equivalent to that. So it was a net zero gain for me. I didn't make more money, but I'm not losing more money. But at the same time, my employees are paying an increase to get to my location to work for me and, feed kids and whatnot. So, I grew up in the 80s. There was a huge recession in the 80s, and there was a huge recession in 2008 that we all survived. I mean, inflation was huge in the 70s. I remember my formative years when I was 9 years old and in 76, 77, the amount of tension and agony that my parents had when they were trying to write those checks every month. And I know checks is a passe activity now, but it's the same thing. It's like looking at my bank statement. I only have X amount of dollars, and how am I going to spend those dollars, and what are the decisions I'm going to make to survive day to day? So we can weather this storm, and like Martin said, that's by doing it together. And attracting, I don't want to say price conscious consumers, because the people that visit me are not necessarily price conscious, because again, I consider myself a premium experience. But at the same time, I do want to attract, moms and pops that want to spend a little time with their families. And if I can make it feasible for them, we're going to do that. And then hopefully, raise income along the same lines.
That sounds good. Excellent. And it's always good to be thinking about what else they need to be spending on, because that keeps on coming up in our surveys, as you would imagine, too.
Yeah, a lot. All right, jump to the next question. Martin, we've talked a lot about helping to fight retailers' problems, but what's something many retailers think will work to build their business that's really a waste of time and money?
Dropping a lot of money on marketing versus humanizing and personalizing and selling small. The competitive advantage a small business has, there are 3 really key things in a micro business: speed of execution, the people, and the local connection. They aren't getting enough video content out that humanizes them. I used to say, we'll make you look bigger than you are. And that never sat well with me, because it's like, we lied to the customer first. Now they should trust us. We need to capitalize on small. They need to get their darn smartphone out, make a little video, and not being perfect will draw people in. Stop being perfect. Stop trying to look like the big guy. That's killing you off. And so the mistake they do is they keep trying to look bigger than they are. And that kills their competitive advantage, because once you do that, now you're competing with the people who have the huge bucks. So now in reverse, if a billboard says barbecue, Southern tea, turn right, spend the money on the billboard. But be cautious of this. Do more to humanize and personalize. Branding was created because YouTube didn't exist. I'm the advocate of make money first, brand second. Your people, your advantage, your story, your value. And I've proven this over and over with business. The person who cleans our house, she just got a sticker for her car after I said, my wife loves you, you'll be booked solid in 6 months. And she is. No name tag, nothing else. Lead with the relationship, lead with the humanized, personalized is it. And the mistake they do is they want to hide behind their brand and not get their people out. And that's the one competitive advantage they actually have.
That's just a great, you covered so much in that answer, Martin. That's fantastic. So I'm going to dive in. By the way, thank you, everybody, panel, for all of these comments. I mean, we could talk about this stuff all day, and you guys have been all fantastic. Now I'm going to move on to some audience questions that I'll pose to different people here. If I ask you to answer a question and other people want to answer, please raise your hand. But we are coming close. We really have just about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to try to whip through a number of these here. Let me ask, do you find that more local businesses are opening or closing? And Jack, I'm going to pose that to you. Since you're in your role as small business director, what are you seeing? Are you seeing many new ones opening, or are you seeing more closing?
Well, it's really hard to gauge how many are closing, right? Just what I'm, when I visit the rural towns, I see what's closing, I see what's opening. What I'm seeing is more kind of micro startups coming through my office right now, right? So a lot of times, I'm not seeing a lot of larger small businesses opening, like a restaurant, for instance, right? But what I am seeing is a lot of smaller things like food trucks, right? Or like a DJ service, or like someone power washing houses, or someone getting a few lawnmowers to start a landscaping company. So I think I'm seeing a lot of micro businesses starting up, more than I'm seeing more like brick and mortar starting up. So I'd say right now it's about even. I'm in a very rural area, so it might not be representative of all of your town, based on what I'm seeing. But most of the little downtowns are mostly full in my service area.
Well, that's nice to see. That's more than I can say up here in New England. I'm seeing a lot of, unfortunately, I'm seeing some ghost towns emerge, or some ghost neighborhoods, and that's one of the reasons we're having this today. But I'm happy it's a little bit better in your neck of the woods, Jack. Brian, I saw that you wanted to weigh in on this question.
I do want to add, because I'm very cognizant of the business environment in my county, in Onslow County, North Carolina. One thing I will say, though, is that I see a fair amount of businesses opening. I see a wide variety in the types of businesses that are opening and the types of owners that are opening. But at the same time, I also see a high percentage of first-time business owners failing rather quickly, and specifically, and I'll mention it because it needs to be mentioned, in the BIPOC community, our Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. They are really, really struggling to keep the doors open, keep the lights on, and I'm not sure what the contribution to that is, and how I, as a seasoned business owner, been in business for 7 years, can help them out and make sure that they have an opportunity to grow and prosper in our communities. And I say that because I have friends that I've seen, sink their life savings and their reputation into opening a business in a niche. And within 18 months, they're doors are closed, they're out of business. And that's because of lack of patronage, people coming to visit them, lack of support from the wider community. And like Martin said, and like Jack said, and like Sharon said, when we lift each other as business owners, we have a more thriving and more vibrant business community. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of my friends that are of, other ethnicities, their businesses don't get the kind of attention that my business gets. And I'm not sure what that is. And that's a topic for a larger conversation. But I do want to say that I see a whole lot of businesses opening, but at the same time, I see an equal amount closing. So we have kind of like a net zero gain loss of businesses in our community. We have a wide variety of types of businesses opening, but at the same time, we have a wide variety of businesses closing. So I hope that the next 3, 4, or 5 years that we have a larger base of small and micro businesses opening in my community.
Yes, indeed. Martin?
Yeah, I want to add, I love that, Brian. I was I was in Elizabeth City and visited a Radio Shack that's open, and a window open says, "We're not open yet." And he said, I forgot, it was Yo Boys barbecue. He said, "We have the best soul food you'll ever get." And and this is where someone else can make a difference. I made a little video of him, and I'm going to share it in the group. They'll just almost bring a tear to your eyes of how his mother his grandmother grew him up, who was his mother, and check back. And we can help these by maybe interviewing someone like that, and how it brought more business. And of course, the food was to die for that he had. But this is, I think, what Brian brings up is, I think if you see someone that may not have had as many opportunities, Brian has a long history of doing that. I made a little video with my camera, and it got several thousand views. I checked back, and he had someone from out of state come in. So we can all help by showcasing a new neighbor or a new business.
And yes, and especially in the food industry, because what I'm finding too is that a lot of retailers are struggling, but anybody opening a restaurant has a long road ahead. And but they really form the personality of the community. So,
and I'm going to add, write a recommendation if you love them on Alignable or on one of the review sites, Google Business Profile, or even Yelp. We can make a difference just as a customer in something like that.
Yes, indeed. Yes. And don't think that they don't need your business. Everybody needs your business on Main Street in particular. So let me go to one or two other questions here. I wanted to ask, Sharon, I'm going to ask you this. What do you think about spending money on attracting new customers versus investing in your current customers to keep them more loyal?
Oh, I definitely believe in attracting additional customers. And one of the ways that we do that is to use social media to attract them. We have a Facebook page, we have a website, and on the website, we have very interesting histories of the antique dealers or producers who helped in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and what the backstory of those folks were. And that's extremely important. It's also important when people come in for the first time because they're amazed that you know this information. So yes, you want to attract and keep customers, but in the 3 seasons of the year that we have folks coming in from out of town as our guests, it's important for us to attract new customers. And doing a feature of the week, a feature of the day, has been extremely helpful to us. And investing in our Facebook page with sharing it out in the world has helped us increase our opportunities.
Excellent. Now, I only have time for one more question. If you posted other questions, everybody, please post them in the group so that we can keep this conversation going. And I really wish I had more time for all of the questions, but I did want to ask this of Dave. Dave, because you're the money guy. So I wanted to ask you this. What percentage do you believe of revenues should small businesses spend on marketing and advertising?
I mean, that really depends on the specifics of the business. It's hard for me to say that there's one uniform number across the board, but I think I kind of like to work the math backwards and think, okay, what's the desired amount of new revenue that comes from new customers, to Sharon's point. And then I think also if we're looking at, we want to drive more repeat business, more referral business. To me, the conversation has to begin with getting clear about what the numbers are and the economics of how those current income streams look now. And then you've got to figure out how much money do I need to make, or how much do I net on each dollar of revenue, and then figure out, okay, based on what my nets are, how much would I need to make from an advertising campaign in order for that campaign to pay for itself? And also, before you can really think about percentages, you've got to factor in that there's going to be an upfront setup cost with any advertising campaign. It's going to be a flat number of dollars. So you've got to factor in, you basically have to think backwards and say, okay, what's my break even on an advertising campaign? What does my response rate need to be? What does my close rate need to be? What does my conversion rate on an email need to be? And basically, from working those numbers back, you can arrive at what an acceptable percentage would be relative to your budget. But that's kind of my methodology. But what the answer to that actual percentage would be obviously depends on a lot of different variables outside of that. But does that answer your question, Chuck?
That sounds like that would be a nice follow-up question in your group.
Yeah,
and, to reaching out and people saying, hey, well, I'm this business, or I asked this question, I wanted to ask you more, because that's really what the magic of these groups. So again, thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you to the panelists for all of the great wisdom here. Obviously, we have only hit the tip of the iceberg here, but I did want to summarize some of the tips before we wrap up. So this is what we have. We give customers an experience they'll never forget and want to repeat, because you're investing a lot in that experience. So make it so good and yet different each time, so they feel that they're getting something more. So that is really it. If there's nothing anyone else thinks of from this, it's make the experience great and make your customers feel great, that they're the most important person coming in there. And that's great advice. Beef up your online and social presence, and also your ability to sell online. That helped a lot of people throughout COVID, obviously. And, even though you're a brick and mortar retailer, beef up that ability to sell online. That helps you. It helps you attract more audiences too, a much broader audience. So that's important too. Don't be afraid to be different and stand out. That came up with for a few people. And I threw this in here. Fortune favors the bold. Even if you're an introvert, which many small business people are, and even, brick and mortar retailers, let your personality shine. Let people get to know you. And that had come up quite a few times. Martin had talked about that. Brian, you talked about that. Jack, let people, Sharon, let people get to know you. Because really, you are your business, and you help your business stand out. Then also, and this was across the board with everyone. This is Kim and Sharon and everyone. Team up with fellow merchants. And I added a little more in here to produce multi-store events that make your street a must-visit destination. And many of us have talked about holiday strolls. We have covered holiday strolls here at Alignable in the newsletter. I think you should do holiday strolls every holiday you can, because, or make up a holiday that's important to a town. Have fun with it and get into that. And then we have some Alignable tips too. I just wanted to run through really quickly for folks. Okay, join groups that cater to your interests in your industries, and please ask for advice and share advice. That's really a great thing you can do here on Alignable to really stand out and get referrals. Get involved in your local alliance. We have these great local alliances that have been emerging all along. And in fact, Martin is an ambassador. So, get involved with your local alliance. And if you don't have a local alliance, make one. Go for it. Many people I've interviewed who are ambassadors have more than doubled their income just by being ambassadors and having events. And whether or not you're the ambassador, because you have a brick and mortar establishment, offer to host the events in your brick and mortar establishment. That's a big deal. And that can bring in more business too. Want help with marketing? Go to our vendor marketplace. It's new, it's emerging, it's fun, and you will find so many experts there, hundreds of experts. Enter our annual contest. You knew this was coming, Martin. Enter the annual contest. All winners gain visibility here. And in fact, we did just have a winner who was featured on over 100 local and statewide outlets in Florida and nationally via Yahoo News. Her whole shop had a minute and a half TV segment that turned into an online promotion. It was fantastic. And all she did was win the contest, become one of our 3,967 winners. And then check out our Smart Connect events to meet new peers. You can meet as many as 8 an hour. So that brings us pretty much to the conclusion here, folks. You guys know I like to talk. Mitchell likes to talk. We would be talking about this stuff. Martin, we'd be talking about this for another 3 hours, but it's sad to say we have hit our time limit today. Please join that Brick and Mortar Business Owners group. And we're posting links to many of the opportunities we just mentioned. Thank you, everyone.
Smile for the camera.
Great. Mitchell, man, great first stab at this. You were really terrific. And I really appreciate, everything everyone poured into this. You're all so smart. You all need to be heard. I want to make you all as famous as possible. And maybe this is a step in the right direction. So thank you so much for everything that you've done today. And really to everyone here, merchants and non-merchants, stop spending on Amazon. Get up, walk downtown, buy a lot from your local retailers because they need it and they really are the heart of your community. And
thanks, gang, at Alignable for doing this too. I started a discussion in the group so we can continue it.
And as Martin would say, shop local, review local, buy local.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, indeed. Mitchell, any final thoughts as we're wrapping up?
No, just a special thanks to all of our panelists, Martin, Dave, Kim, Jaron, Jack, and Brian. You were all outstanding and really, really insightful answering a lot of these questions. So I just want to say thank you again, and thanks for keeping the entrepreneurial dream alive in your communities.
Okay, that's wonderful. And please tell Martin if you want to do another one of these, because
that's right.
I have a whole host of other questions I want to ask. Yeah. But thanks, everyone, for being with us. We really appreciate everyone who came here today and everyone who's watching this on tape. And please join the groups and get involved and help each other out. I think with that, everyone have a great day and have a great week. And thank you for coming.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This was great. Just great.